So is
Welcome.
Good morning. Am I audible?
yes, it sounds good. Okay, great. Then we can begin, I believe. So
Yeah.
hello, everyone. Yeah, sorry again for the little delay, but my name is Michael Slober. I'm a Sanskrit scholar with the Department of Global Humanities and Religions here at Western Washington University. Before I turn it over to my colleague, Penny Hutchinson, to introduce our esteemed speaker, Dr. Balasubramanian, I have some announcements to make. So first, we'd like to acknowledge that our university's main campus is situated on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish peoples who have lived here since time immemorial. We express our deepest respect and gratitude to our indigenous neighbors for their enduring care of and protection of these lands and waterways. So, this lecture was organized by the Department of Global Humanities and Religions, which emphasizes interdisciplinary humanities, cultural history, and the study of religion, ancient to modern, and across the globe, with attention to cross-cultural interactions. We would also like to thank the Alumni Association for their partnership in making this happen, as well as the support of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, the Anthropology Department, and the College of Fine and Performing Arts. So I know that some of you have submitted questions with your registration. We've received those and noted them. For any new questions that come up during Dr. B's lecture, please use the Zoom Q&A feature, which should be located right down in the center bottom part of your screen. Okay, we'll save all questions until the end, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can in the limited time that we have today. So I now welcome Penny Hutchinson to introduce Dr. K.S. Balasubramanian.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to our 4 sessions on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali with Dr. K.S. Balasubramanian from Chennai. My name is Penny Hutchinson, and I am Associate Professor in Dance at Western. Our esteemed guest speaker is the Deputy Director of the Kupaswami Sastry Research Institute in Chennai, South India. He holds an MA in Sanskrit, a PhD in Hatha Yoga, and a PhD in Yoga, as well as 35 years working with postgraduate researchers. He has attended international conferences and taught in Europe and the US. He has won many awards in his studies. He has 10 books being currently published. We are so grateful to have such an eminent person to guide us. His encouragement and kindness led to my treasured studies with his colleague, Dr. T.V. Vasudeva, on the Natya Shastra, a 5,000-year-old text of music, dance, and theater. And he has opened up many new possibilities for me through his colleagues and knowledge. Thank you. Sanskrit literature shares ancient wisdom that is applicable to today's world. I sincerely hope that others may become interested in the world of Sanskrit and find the resources to help them live in the best way possible. I would also like to give special thanks to the director of the Institute, Dr. V. Kamaswari, and fond greetings to all the people who work at the Institute who help me in so many ways. You'll be my first stop when I am able to travel. Thank you so much to Dr. K.S. Balasubramanian for taking time out of a hugely busy schedule to do these sessions. We appreciate you so much. May we all benefit from our time together and spread this benefit to the world. The recordings of these sessions will be available on the WWU alumni website. Thank you sincerely to all of those who helped make this dream come true. Dr. Michael Slober, Dr. Kimberly Lin, Chair of Global Humanities and Religions, and Janine Bankson, Director of Western Alumni, and many others who gave us encouragement to have these talks with Dr. Balasubramanian. Please feel invited into the world of the great sage Patanjali, whose sutras have been inspiring people for thousands of years. So I'll turn it over now to Dr. Balasubramanian. Welcome.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Saha Nau Bhunattu Sah Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Good morning to all of you from Chennai, and my sincere thanks to Dr. Penny, her colleagues, and all others who have given me this opportunity to be with you all, to share some of the views on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. This Vedic prayer which I just uttered is usually recited in the beginning of each session of traditional Indian Vedic classes. In short, it means both the disciple and the guru, or the teacher or the preceptor. They say, let God protect both of us, let Him nourish both of us, let us put our endeavor together, because communication means it is a two-way process. Therefore, let us put our endeavor together. Let whatever we read contribute to our spiritual elevation, brilliance, and let there be no enmity between both of us, and let there be peace, peace, peace. This is how the Vedic prayer always says repeatedly, let there be peace, peace, peace. And there is a reason for it, but I won't go into it now because we are short of time. And I will start with the traditional verse in praise of the great saint Patanjali, who gave us the yoga system of philosophy. Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya tu vaidyakena yoga karot tam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi. The picture you see on my background represents the great saint Patanjali. This verse says, I offer my salutations to the best among the saints, namely Patanjali, who removed the defects of my mind by writing a text on yoga, Yoga Sutra, who removed the defects of my body by writing a text on Ayurveda or medicine, namely Charaka Samhita, who removed the defects in my speech by writing a great treatise on grammar. So this is the traditional verse which has been recited for thousands of years, and without going much into other details, I would start with a very, very brief summary of yoga. Now, yoga's antiquity is something which cannot be measured or expressed in words, because Rig Veda, the oldest literature in this world, contains a lot of materials on the precepts and practice of yoga. There is a reference to a saint who has been hanging, keeping his legs above and the head below. In modern connotation, it is called Shirasasana or head posture, and in the earlier Hatha Yoga text, it is called Viparita Karani. So this was known for Indians thousands and thousands of years ago, and in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Ramayana, in Mahabharata, and in all classical texts, and including many schools of Indian philosophy, yoga has been referred with high degree of respect. And yoga has been systematically developed over the years. If we have time, I will give a very brief picture about it. And yoga is not merely theory, or it is not merely practice. It is an integration of body, mind, and soul. And from the excavations of Mohenjo-daro, we have the wonderful seal of a person, a saint, meditating in sitting posture, which has been identified as Mula Bandha Asana. It has been excavated by Sir John Marshall some 100 years ago, and this is at least 5,000 years old. So we can be sure that yoga was being practiced in those days. However, it was the great Saint Patanjali who codified all the systems of yoga that were available before him, thousands of years before him, and he made it into a school of Indian thought. Now, in India, we don't call the schools of thought as philosophy as the Greek or the Western schools of scholars call it so. Because in Western system, philosophy means phil plus sophia, which means love for knowledge, love for wisdom. In India, it was always known by the term darshana, meaning vision or seeing. Therefore, they depended, the ancient saints, they depended more on the inner vision of reality or self-realization. In other words, God realization. And whatever they discovered, whatever they experienced, they tried to put in words. And there arose many schools of Indian philosophy, as we can say in modern connotation. And broadly, they were divided into two categories, namely orthodox or astika, those who believed in the existence of God and the authority of the Vedas, and those who denied the authority of the Vedas. So those who believed in the authority of the Vedas, they were called orthodox schools, and 6 schools are very prominent, namely Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. Among these 6, Sankhya system and Yoga system are supposed to be allied systems of philosophy. Now, we are more concerned about Patanjali's school of yoga. This Patanjali school of yoga has been referred to by all other schools of Indian philosophy. Therefore, we can see how ancient this school of yoga was. And everybody respected him for his knowledge, not only in theory, but also in practice. Just let us see what Patanjali means first before going into yoga. In Sanskrit, the root pat means to fall. Anjali means to keep our hands in folded way. That is offer what we say the namaskar or namaste in our modern connotation. Now, the tradition says, the legend says that Patanjali is an incarnation of the 1,000-hooded serpent, which is the bed for Lord Vishnu to recline. And one day, this 1,000-hooded serpent, who is known as Adi Shesha, he expressed a desire to be born on this earth, this mortal world, to witness the beautiful dance of Lord Shiva in Chidambaram, which is around 250 kilometers away from Chennai, where you see the beautiful, one of the most beautiful pictures of Lord Shiva, namely Nataraja, in the dance position. And Lord Vishnu granted him the boon. And so this great serpent fell in the hands of a lady, a very pious lady called Gonika, when she was offering the salutations to the sun god, S-U-N, sun god, with folded hands, and the child fell in her hands. Therefore, because he fell as a child in the folded hands of this great lady called Gonika, he was known as Patanjali. This is the background of Patanjali's incarnation into this world. And we are concerned only with the Yoga Sutras. Yoga Sutra, what does the word Sutra mean? Sutra means aphorisms. They are very crypt. You know, it is not sentence. They don't follow any grammatical rule. They consist of only very few words, but they contain the knowledge of so many things which were expanded later on by commentators and those who wrote subsequent commentaries on these commentaries, which we call the super commentaries, supra commentaries by different terms in Sanskrit. For example, Bhashya, Vartika, Vritti, Tika, Tippani, like that, commentaries were written on each commentary. Thus, the school of each system of Indian philosophy developed into a very great body of literature, which one cannot read in his entire life. Now, coming to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, it is divided into 4 chapters. We call it Pada. Pada means actually foot. So it is divided into 4 sections. And the first section is known as Samadhi Pada. Samadhi meaning absorption. I will come to it. And then the second one gives more importance to the practical aspect, namely sadhana. And the third one is known as Vibhuti Pada, meaning supernatural powers. Patanjali gives a lot of information about how to acquire supernatural powers by meditating on different external objects as well as the internal objects of the body. And the 4th section is known as Kaivalya Pada, or the section that deals with the ultimate realization that myself or the soul is completely different or away or secluded from the entire universe as we see. It is the attachment with the external world that makes us bound, that is, we are in bondage. And Patanjali uses the term Viveka or discrimination, that I am different from what I see. Therefore, such a system is known as Yoga Sutras. It consists of 195 sutras. In some editions, there are 2 more sutras, but traditionally, it consists of 195 sutras. And what does the term yoga means? It is a very complex word because it has got more than 50 meanings, more than 20 meanings, and very difficult to use the term yoga because the meaning differs in each context. We shall see only very few of them. And before I talk about Patanjali's yoga, we should have a fundamental or a basic background of what it stands for, what we call the metaphysics, or what are the main philosophical terms that are used in Patanjali's yoga. Patanjali accepts 2 real entities or 2 realities. In Patanjali's school of yoga, the external world or the universe is as real as the internal soul or the self. In Advaita school of philosophy or the non-dualistic school of Vedanta, they deny the existence of the external world as an ultimate reality. For them, only God is the ultimate. But Patanjali accepts there are 2 eternal entities, that is objective reality, the objects that we see, they do exist, and then I should exist because otherwise I will not be able to perceive the object. Therefore, he accepts 2 real entities. One is called the Purusha, meaning the internal self. The word Purusha literally means Puri, means in the city, and then Shete, he sleeps. That is the real self or the soul or Purusha. He is lying in our heart, latent or dormant way, and he has to be aroused to realize his own reality. So he is called Purusha. In Vedantic terminology, it is known as Atman or Jiva, individual soul. And the ultimate God is, in Patanjali's philosophy, is known as Ishvara or God, which we are going to see in Vedanta. They go beyond it and they say it is Brahman or God without any attributes. Now, Patanjali is also having such ideas, which we shall be seeing very shortly. And according to Patanjali, there is one more reality called Prakriti Prakriti has been translated loosely by the modern scholars as nature, that is with capital N, but it is not so. In the school of Sankhya and Yoga, Prakriti means the first cause of creation, that the primordial, the primary cause from which everything came into existence. This is known as Prakriti. Now, Prakriti is represented as a female entity. It is in feminine gender in Sanskrit grammar also. And Purusha is a male entity. He represents the masculine gender in Sanskrit. Now, to get a creation, to take the creation to take place, there should be a fusion or union between two objects, that is the male and the female. Now, according to Patanjali's yoga system, the Purusha or the self or the soul is intelligent, conscious, but he is not active. He is non-active. Therefore, he is represented as a layman who cannot move. But he has eyes, ears, and everything. So he can have all the sensory perceptions. That is, he is intelligent, but he is immobile. On the other hand, Prakriti is quite opposite. The Prakriti is always active, but she is not intelligent. She doesn't know what to do. She does so many things. How could the union bring about the creation? And so Patanjali and Sankhya will give an excellent relationship between these two, which is known as the maxim of the lame and the blind. The blind man, namely the Purusha or the self, climbs over and sits on the shoulder of the lame man. Purusha sits over the blind lady, that is the Prakriti, and guides her to reach the destination. Ultimately, both of them reach the destination. This is the concept in Sankhya and Yoga. Now, this state of creation was perfect balance and equilibrium. There are so many theories in Western philosophy also. There was chaos. In Indian school of philosophy, they don't accept chaos as the base of creation. It was only orderliness. In creation, we see a lot of orderliness. So the day follows night, night follows the day, and tiger gets only tiger, man gets man, like that, So there is an orderliness in creation. And there was perfect balance or equilibrium before creation. Just imagine, there's a beautiful pond of water, sheet of water, where there is no movement at all. There is perfect balance and equilibrium. What happens if I throw a small pebble into this water? It creates a ripple. That ripple creates another ripple. That creates another ripple. Like that, the water's balance is disturbed. In the same way, during the creation, just before creation, everything was in perfect balance. And then there arose a vibration, a jerk, or what we call the choke, which came to be the first object of creation. This Prakriti, the female, who is the creator, consists of three gunas. Guna means character, quality. One is sattva, all that is good, all that is noble, all that gives you calmness and peace of mind, that is represented by the term sattva. We all experience that. Second comes rajas, which is full of virility, full of action, full of passion, full of indulging in so many things. That is rajas. And then comes tamas, which sloth, indolence, sleep, and then laziness. So everyone possesses of these three qualities. When the sattva predominates in me, I tend to be more calm, peaceful, and helping people in their distress. When rajas predominates in me, I tend to do so many things, including in the act of procreation or indulge in so many things as we do in our daily activities. When tamas predominates, I am lazy and I feel sleepy. This is what happens to all of us. These three gunas, they are in always in some permutation combination, and so many different states of mind have been described in yoga by Patanjali and also by the letter writers. So what happens before the creation takes place? Imagine what happens in our sleep when we don't have dream. Western science does not believe in a dreamless condition, whereas yoga believes in a dreamless sleep, which we call sushupti, where there is the absence of all the sense organs and also the mind, and consequently the mind is completely without any disturbance. This is akin or similar to that state which prevailed before the world or the entire universe was created. Therefore, this state is known by the term samadhi, or complete or total absorption. Sama in Sanskrit means balance or equilibrium. Adhi, A-D-H-I, Adhi means mental disturbance. Therefore, when there is no disturbance at all in the mind, when the mind is completely in a state of balance and equilibrium, then there is no disturbance, no activity at all in the physical body also. On the other hand, when the mind is disturbed, you find we are also disturbed. Therefore, the ancient saints and the experts in medicine, they called such a state as vyadi, V plus adi. Due to the disturbance of mind, we get headache, migraine, back pain, schizophrenia, stomach pain, including heart attack, BP, sugar, whatever it is, most of the diseases originate in the mind. Therefore, we have to aim to bring our mind into a state of complete balance and moderation, equilibrium. This is the purpose of Patanjali's yoga. This is the purpose for which all the ancient scriptures have, advocated all the human beings to strive for. Bhagavad Gita repeats this very often. Therefore, there has to be a complete balance and moderation in all our activities, in whatever we eat, in whatever we do, in whatever, even in sleep. One should not oversleep, one should not remain without sleep, says Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So in all our activities, there should be a complete balance and moderation. So this is what Patanjali aims at in his Yoga Sutra. This is very much required in the modern times also. Now, this samadhi, as I told you, represents complete absorption of the mind in the inner self, which Patanjali is going to explain. Therefore, yoga stands for samadhi, or complete balance and equilibrium, according to one definition. The second definition says yoga means union. Union of what? Union of any union means there should be at least two things to get united, to get joined together. Therefore, in Yoga School of Philosophy, some scholars have said union means the union of the individual self, which is separated from the divine or God. Both of them get united by means of some practice. Therefore, it is called yoga. And there is another meaning or definition for the term yoga, in which sense Patanjali has used the word yoga in his Yoga School of Philosophy. That means yoga means complete restraint or control. This is what Patanjali defines yoga. So let us see what Patanjali's yoga, the first pada or section, deals about in a very brief manner. Now, Patanjali in the first sutra says Hatha yoganusasanam. Hatha means generally, then, later. Therefore, after all these practices and all that, one finds the path of yoga, let us say that, and he has got the instruction to do what he has to perform and then reach his destination of what is called yoga or samadhi, total absorption into his own self. And then, what is yoga then? So here, the commentator says there are 5 states of mind. In the first state, whenever we try to meditate, our mind always falls down. We are not able to close our eyes and meditate even for 1 minute or 2 minutes, always the mind wavers like the pendulum of the clock. And then second state is the mind is in a stupefied or in a very non-active way. It is not at all active. In the third state, the mind is, we are able to fix the mind on particular object for some time, but then the mind slips away, wanders away from that object. In the fourth state, we are able to have concentration, one-pointed attention on some object, whether it is internal or on the external world. That is called the fourth state. And in the fifth state of mind, then it is called the complete annihilation or suspension of the mental activities. This is what Patanjali says yoga means. Therefore, in the second sutra, Patanjali says, Yogaha chitta vritti nirodhaha. Yoga means complete restraint of the modifications of the mind. Here, Patanjali uses the term chitta, which means, let us say, mind, and vritti means the modifications of the mind. And what are they? Patanjali says there are 5 such modifications of the mind, and he enumerates them, but he classifies them under 2 broad groups: those which give us sufferings, pains, problems, or afflictions, and those which do not give such sufferings to us. You please note down this point. Patanjali is very clear that the mental modifications do not give us happiness, because ultimately whatever gives us happiness will also lead us to suffering, as the great Gautama Buddha said that the world is full of only sufferings. And Patanjali also says in one of the sutras, ultimately for those who have achieved a level of perfection, who are endowed with the sense of discrimination, everything gives only sorrow or problems or pain or miseries. And now Patanjali says that these 5 mental modifications are the pramana, which means means of valid knowledge. There are many means to arrive at the conclusion of an object that we see, we hear, we smell, we touch, we taste. These are due to the external, perception through the 5 sense organs, namely the eyes, the nose, the ears, the tongue, and the skin. These give us the knowledge of those objects which are outside us. And then they have to be in touch or in contact with the mind. If the mind is not in communion or union with these sense organs, then you don't get the knowledge of these objects. For example, I may be listening to the talk by somebody. If my mind is somewhere else, I will not be able to get the real meaning or the import of the speaker. In the same way, the mind has to be used, harnessed, or united with the sense organs to get the best knowledge of the objects. Therefore, it is also yoga or union. So, Patanjali gives a list of means of valid knowledge, and then he talks about viparyaya, which means false knowledge. You see, we get false knowledge or imperfect knowledge or incorrect knowledge or wrong knowledge or erroneous perception, as we call it, due to many factors. For example, if I keep the book too close like this to my eyes, if the object is too close, I will not have the right knowledge. If the object is too far, I will not have the right knowledge of the object. If the object is too subtle or too small, like atomic particles, I will not be able to perceive. But if the object is too big, like a mountain, for example, I cannot have a comprehensive view of a very big object. So like this, if the sense organs are defective, for example, if I have the yellow fever, we call it jaundice in India, I see the entire world as yellow color. If my ears are defective, I shall not be able to hear properly. If I have running cold, I will not be able to have the smell or the fragrance of the object that is before me. Like that. So the sense organs should also be without any defect. So there are some conditions for getting a good knowledge or the valid knowledge from the external object. On the other hand, there is also the inner knowledge which does not depend on the sense organs. For example, in the dream, I close my eyes and I sleep, but yet I am able to see many things. For example, a beautiful girl in the dream, I get happiness. For example, in the dream, I may see myself being attacked by a thief and I get fear. I may feel that I am being killed in a war. Then I am terrorized, or I feel sorrow. So many things can happen in the dream. But in reality, the sense organs are not at all involved, but it is only the play of the mind. And yoga says it is because of the impressions that we have gathered through our eons of, our lives, eons of years. For example, whatever I speak, whatever I do, whatever I think, everything casts an impression in the mind. We call it samskara, or in Patanjali's terminology, it is known as vasana. Because of this, we have a lot of grossness or the impressions in our mind. And therefore, when the mind is calm, peaceful, not disturbed, and when we are in sleep, we get a lot of dreams. And consequently, the sense organs are not involved, but we suffer or feel the happiness in our dream. Therefore, this is known as false knowledge. The knowledge that I get from my sense organs need not be true. For example, we talk of mirage. We see water in the summer, in the desert. Actually, there is no water, but I am able to see. And also, in semi-darkness, if there is a rope, I see it as a snake and I get fear. I am afraid. But when I bring a torch and go near it, it is after all a snake. What happened to the snake? I saw it existing there, but in reality, it was only a rope. So these are some examples of the false knowledge. And then we get some idea about certain things by hearing to some words about objects which actually do not exist at all. For example, I may talk about a rabbit or a hare with horns, or we call something as unicorn, a horse with a horn, but we can imagine such horse. Actually, it does not exist. So we see so many modern, Hollywood pictures also, where we see people coming from other planets, aliens, we call them. I don't know whether they exist or not, but we seem to believe such things, This is what happens when we have the false, the knowledge that occurs after seeing or listening to certain things, which Patanjali calls vikalpa, or these are all only fancy, to use Patanjali's word. And then we have got sleep. Even sleep is hindrance to our, spiritual progress. What is sleep? Sleep is that which gives some rest to the body, no doubt. But there is no object at all in deep sleep. Therefore, we completely forget everything. And in the fifth state, or fifth, vritti, is called smriti, or remembrance, or memory. Memory comes only when there is some impression in our mind. Otherwise, there are many kinds of mental activities. Sometimes I have hallucination. Sometimes I project certain things which I have not seen at all. Sometimes I recollect, on seeing some object, I recollect about the past incidents, or supposing I hear some music, I recollect having seen some film connected with that. But remembrance need not bring out the picture of the person whom I have already seen. So all these things have been explained in the school of Indian philosophy, especially in the school of yoga. Now Patanjali says all these mental modifications have to be completely arrested. You see, the mind is equated as a perfect balanced existence of a water body. Let us say a swimming pool or pond where there is no wave of the water at all. It is in complete equilibrium or balance. But the moment some disturbance takes place by means of wind or by means of throwing of a small stone or pebble, then one wave starts coming and it leads to another wave like that. This is what happens to our mind. But Patanjali says our mind has to go and rest in the self. How can it happen? In the same pool of water, let us imagine a water body or pond. Now, when I peep into it, when I look into it, it should reflect my face. Under two circumstances, I will not be able to have my own reflection. What are these two? If the water is impure, like gutter we see in many places in India, I will not get the reflection of my face. Or if the water is disturbed, it is having waves, then it will not give the reflection of my face. Therefore, Patanjali's yoga gives answers to these two possibilities, tries to eradicate, remove these two defects by making the mind calm, still, completely balanced and equilibrium, and by removing all that is there, blemishes in the mind or impurities in the mind. Therefore, it is very pure, so that my face, myself, my mind, everything gets united and gets reflection, and I can have the pure existence or the reflection of my own self, which I can experience in my deep meditation. Therefore, Patanjali says, what happens during other times? It is good that we meditate and experience all these things, but we have to exist in this world. The external world is as real or as good as the internal world. Therefore, Patanjali accepts that for those fortunate human beings who have been lifted to the higher consciousness or the ultimate consciousness by means of the blessings or the grace of the masters, this world will not be able to disturb them. So many things will go on taking place, but I will not be disturbed by all these things. Even though I live in this world, Lord Krishna uses a beautiful simile for this. It is just like the lotus leaf floating in the water. It is in the water, but it does not get absorbed in the water. And in yogic parlance, they give a beautiful example of a royal swan. The swan may swim in the water, but it is not, anointed, or it does not get stuck with the water, and the water does not get absorbed in the swan. In the same way, that is why it is called Paramahamsa, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, the guru of Swami Vivekananda, the great swan, Paramahamsa. Therefore, Patanjali gives means to live in this world, but not being affected by whatever that happens around me. Not that I should not be involved. I should do every good activity for the welfare of the society. Patanjali also accepts that, but in a way that I am not disturbed and I am not harming others. Therefore, Patanjali hints at 81 methods or 81 means of affecting others, harming others, which is known as himsa. So Patanjali advocates ahimsa in the second section of this Yoga Sutra. So we should not hurt ourselves. We should not also hurt others by means of words, by means of action, by means of thought also. Now, this is what yoga aims at, to remove the sufferings of the mind and the body. So Patanjali says what to do, how to do this, how to achieve this. Patanjali gives two practices for that, two solutions for that. One is called abhyas. Abhyas means practice. And the second one is called vairagya, which means non-attachment. I can do things without being attached, just like a trustee. You know, I take classes for many students, as I was introduced. We have got students from many universities in USA, Canada, Europe. We have got MOU with many universities from many European and Western countries, Australian countries and all that. We take classes, but I am not getting affected by that. I just, communicate or transfer whatever I have read, whatever I have experienced to my students. I don't get affected by it. Therefore, you can live in such a way, being unaffected by these things. This is what yoga also stands for. This is known as vairagya. You may possess a lot of things in this world, but you should not be attached with this. This is the real meaning of the term vairagya. And what does the word abhyasa mean? Abhyasa, according to Patanjali, means to keep the mind rest on yourself. That is the ultimate reality. The practice that I do to keep my mind in a state of complete balance and equilibrium is known as abhyasa. And is it achieved in a day or two? Patanjali says, so sorry, it is not so. You have to do the practice over a period of long time and without interruption, in a very dedicated manner, and then it gets established. This is what Patanjali says about the practice. We should practice over a period of long time, and then we should do it without any interruption, and then we should do it with dedication, and then it gets established. This is these two things, abhyasa and vairagya, the practice with dedication as well as non-attached way of living. These two, Patanjali says. If we feel it very difficult to do so, Patanjali gives so many options to keep our mind, peaceful, calm, and serene. One such method is very simple. He introduces the concept of God or Ishvara. He says, let us offer ourselves completely to the God. Now, what is God? Who is God? All of a sudden you are talking of God. So Patanjali says, if you are not able to comprehend the God, he gives a very beautiful definition of God. He says, Klesha, Karma, Vipaka, Ashayehi, Aparamrishtaha, Purusha Visheshaha, Ishvaraha. Ishvara or God is also one such Purusha or the self like you and I, but he is a special one. In what way he is special? Patanjali says, he is not affected by all the afflictions. We are affected by all the sufferings and afflictions. God is not affected. He is not affected by all the actions. You and I are affected by all our actions. And he is not affected by the results of the action. Supposing I write my examination, I have an anxiety whether I will get 90% or 80% or I will fail in my examination. For God, there is no just worry because he is not affected by the result of his actions. And he is not having any impressions of the actions that he is doing, whereas we are gathering all the impressions because of our actions. Therefore, the God is that who is beyond all these things, according to Patanjali. And Patanjali says, God is someone who is before everybody. He is the master of the first masters in this world. You see, it is very simple to explain. Supposing I have a doubt in mathematics. I go to a professor who knows more mathematics than me. I ask him certain doubts. He clarifies. Supposing he does have some doubts, he goes to a person who knows better. And that person has some doubt, he goes to a better person. Like that, if you go on, it becomes ad infinitum or infinite regress, as they say in Western philosophy. Therefore, we have to admit a person who knows all these things in mathematics. In the same way, physics, chemistry, all these things, ultimately, we have to admit that a person is there or an entity is there who has the omniscience, who knows everything, who can explain everything. Therefore, Patanjali says, in him, in God, there is the seed of omniscience. But how to comprehend him? Patanjali says, meditate on the term pranava or Om. Om, according to Indian tradition, is the most sacred mantra. Mantra, by definition, means that which protects us by way of repetition. If I repeat it, if I reflect upon it, if I meditate on that particular word, it should protect me. That is known as mantra. And Om, it is split as A, U, Om is the ultimate mantra in India. So Om represents God in Patanjali's yoga system and in almost all schools of Indian philosophy. So Patanjali says, meditate on it. But how to meditate on it? Patanjali says, meditate on the meaning of it. And the commentators try to expand on this. And Patanjali says, if you find all these things difficult, you find someone who is very calm and peaceful, you try to meditate on him. Supposing you find Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, or Gautama Buddha, anybody whom you consider as a great saint who has not harmed anybody in thought, in word, and action, you can meditate over him as a role model, and then you will find peace of mind and calmness of mind. And Patanjali talks in the first pada or the section about two different methods of samadhi or absorption. One is absorbed in an object or in external or internal object. The second one is that there is no object at all, there is no impression at all. As long as there is a seed, there is the possibility of the germination of the seed into a plant or the tree, which produces a lot of fruits, which produces a lot of plants subsequently. So the seed has to be fried so that it will not germinate, so that there won't be any impression. Such a state in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is called Nirbija Samadhi, where there is no seed at all, where the seed is completely, fructified, and then the mind rests completely in God. Therefore, in the first section of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, we come across all these things. I have tried to give you in a nutshell what Patanjali says in the first section of the Yoga Sutra, and in the subsequent section, I will talk about how to do it, what Patanjali says, how to come over the sufferings of this world, how to practice yoga, that we shall see in the next session. I once again thank all of you for your patient listening, and I thank all the scholars and the respected hosts who have made it possible for me to talk to you on this very auspicious day. Thanks to all of you once again. Thank you very much.
Dr. Balasubramanian, can we have a few question and answers session here? A few minutes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure.
Okay, wonderful. With the registration, there were several people that were asking about the relationship of asanas or postures to the Yoga Sutra, because people observe that modern yoga is so focused on asanas, and then the Yoga Sutra has very, very little about it. And so, people were asking, like, how did we get from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras to modern yoga? I mean, I know that's this huge question, but maybe there's a couple of comments you could make about that.
We want to make some comments on that now, because we will be dealing about the asana in our next episode. It is the third limb of the 8-limb school of Patanjali's yoga. Asana literally means a comfortable fixed posture. Any posture according to Patanjali, you can sit or you can even lie down. It is known as asana. There should be comfortable position and you should not get disturbed by that, and it should be fixed. I will give only a glimpse of it. in ancient India, the saints did penance for hours together, days together, months together, years together, and they observed the nature. For example, many of the asanas have been named after the birds and animals. For example, there is one Mayurasana, the posture of the peacock. And you will find the person resting on his two hands on the floor. Both the elbows will be rested on the stomach. He will be just on the air, resembling the Mayura or the peacock, which removes all the defects in the stomach. And there is an asana in the name of the cow posture. There is an asana in the name of frog. Like that, there have been so many asanas or postures. By observing nature, they saw animals and birds which could adapt to any situation or the climatic change. Therefore, they adopted many postures in ancient India.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so let's see, another question was kind of an in-depth one also, but it relates to what you were talking about with the context of yoga coming out of the Veda and with Sankhya philosophy. So this question asks, do you consider it true that the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali are a direct pragmatic expression of Sankhya philosophy? And if so, do you think that this contradicts many of the modern Hindu ideologies such as non-dualism and Vedanta?
In reality, Patanjali school also advocates non-dualistic school of Vedanta, but not directly as Shankara said. But when we read Yoga Sutras carefully, it also talks about the God without any attributes, number one. Number two, Sankhya, according to many scholars, is said to be the origin of yoga also. But there are scholars like Arihara Aranya, and even I believe that yoga came before Sankhya came into existence. Sankhya is more an intellectual school. It gives more importance to the discrimination through intellectual exercises, whereas yoga is more practical. It gives 8 steps to come over the sufferings, whereas Sankhya gives only intellectual speculations. Yoga is not a speculative science or art, it is more practical, and Patanjali gives room for the practice as well as the room for God to rest upon, which the Sankhya's in Sankhya, which is missing.
Thank you. Another person who just posted this question asked, what is the best practical way to meditate over or about something? So, I mean, I know you mentioned that that Patanjali gives many different alternative methods, but I suppose this person wants to know what your recommendation is of the most effective, simple meditation technique.
From the beginning of the Vedas, you find in Vedas, in Upanishads, even in the Bhagavad Gita, meditation in the heart has been recommended by all the saints. And meditation on the subtlest object, namely the light, which the Vedas say Jyoti, the divine light in the heart. Assuming the presence of the divine light, by which we don't mean the light of the candle or the sun or the moon or the light that we have in our houses. It is an assumption that I have got the illumination in my heart by the divine light, and to meditate on that, because the yoga says, as you believe, so you become. As you practice, you get the result thereof. So you have to meditate on the subtlest object to become more and more subtle and then reach the perfection.
That's very nice. And then perhaps we have time for one final question. This one says, what do you think about transhumanism? And so transhumanism, it means like, it's this movement of incorporating technology to improve human life. So this could be things like microchips implanted in the brain. So like, it's supposed to enhance people's sense abilities to perceive things and to, help people to live longer and healthier. So their question, what do you think about this? And the role that it plays in defining consciousness to the masses? This is kind of a complicated question, but
No, I don't see any complications, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay,
but you see, yoga is such a natural system. You will find, especially in the third section of Patanjali's yoga, there have been umpteen number of possibilities to go beyond the normal human ability, which we call the superhuman powers. And at least 8 such powers are mentioned in yogic text. And if you give me 2-3 minutes, I will explain them. Number 1 is called anima. A person can become infinitesimally small, like an atom. Second one is called mahima. You can become as big as Himalayas or even bigger than that. We have example for all these things in our epics, in our modern life also. And then the third one, you can become as light as a cotton. You can float anywhere in the world, in the space. The fourth one is to become heavy, heavier than anything. You will sink the moment you are put in the water. So, or nobody would be able to lift you. All these things have been, expressed explicitly. People have experienced all these things. So, anima, mahima, garima, lagima, and then prapti. The fifth one means you can reach any place in the world or in the universe just in a second. Supposing I want to touch the moon, that is what the commentators write. I want to go to the sun or the star, immediately I can go. And then prakamya is the sixth one, which means whatever I desire will get happen. It gets fructified. And then the lordship, I can command over anything that I like. And the last one is the divine qualities. All these things are possible without having any artificial microchips or something like that, without harming anybody. And Patanjali gives a lot of such exercises, and also in later texts on Shakta or Tantra and Hatha Yoga, we find lots of such explanations that are possible to human beings without undergoing any such modern or use of any modern gadgets.
Great. And so I think in probably the third lecture, you'll talk more about this, because this is one of the themes later in the Yoga Sutra, right? Okay. I think that we'll have to wrap it up for tonight. That's about the time that we have. We want to be respectful of everyone's schedule. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. This was a wonderful lecture, very broad ranging, but we're going to be narrowing down in on the subsequent parts of the Yoga Sutra. I loved how you explained it with a lot of different similes and a lot of different creative ways of explaining the complex ideas of this ancient philosophy. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and to the audience, thank you for listening. We also want to thank the Alumni Association for their partnership, and we'd like to thank those of you who chose to support the Department of Global Humanities and Religions as part of this lecture series. So a link to the recording of each lecture will be emailed out to all the people that registered in the next few days. We look forward to welcoming you back next week at the same time, around 7 o'clock in West Coast US time, for Dr. Balasubramanian's next lecture on the Yoga Sutra. So have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Penny. Thanks to all of your colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you next time.